Greetings, it's Dawn Sly. I'm not streaming live because I don't have Wi-Fi yet in my home, but I'm getting it soon. I was able to get this from Sweetwater. They mailed it to me, and I have this Gibson. It's a lap steel guitar. It sounds really cool. At first I hadn't played one in a while, so I tuned it in regular tuning, and it doesn't work that well. I looked it up and I tuned it in open G. So I'm not always great at the tunings, so I usually have to look them up, but it's a good resource to be able to look stuff up on your phone if you're able to. There was a time when I could barely afford phone service, so I'm not going to assume everybody can right now. I know times are tough, and I hope things are going well for everybody. I am back here in my Cresswell home, and I don't have my daughter yet, but I hope to soon, and just trying to settle in and try to get things going. I haven't played music for a little bit. I have my saxophone back, but it's not quite in the shape that I was hoping, and I'm not entirely sure it's my same saxophone. It might be a counterfeit, or it might have the neck changed with a different one. There's something going on that's a little bit different. But it's almost 10 o'clock here, which is kind of pushing it because I live out in the country and I want to be respectful to my neighbors. But I am inspired. I looked up a backing track on YouTube and came up, well, the top one happened to be a Creamy Blues backing track in D minor, and so that's what I'm going with. I have a little bit of a buzz on my pickup on this guitar right here, so I'm probably gonna have to have a little bit of work done to it. Plus, all the tuning pegs except for one are broken off. It's my understanding it's from the 50s. So, they're fun to play around with, but I can't say that I'm have much training in it. I think I played them when I was really little, but I'm not really sure. Just kind of see what happens. I need a better setup. I'm just doing what I have. I haven't lived here for 5 years, and I've lived in my car for 2.5 of that, and so it's been kind of hard. I need a few things, but a lot of people need a few things. As you can see, the blinds in the background are original. They're from the 1970s. This house was built in 1977 for my grandparents. On to the Creamy Blues. Dos atrás y otro tus patriota piano atrás. Dova tanto satria, tonda tonda. Santa, oediatusa, dus vortes antiosa, atriontos fantiosa, eatratus patriotas adios, dos patriotos patriotos. Entre satya, satya. Table. so people are expecting somebody else. I like playing this thing, it's fun. You can see it better. Yeah. Do you mind, Mom? I don't know if that'll work with my tuning. worked. It was B minor, but I made it work. That's horrible. I'll start earlier next time, or perhaps I'll go to a place where they let you play music for later. Till later. I used to sit in my car and broadcast all the time, but I'm not living in my car anymore. But I know people still like I'm imagining people might still like when I sing along to stuff that happens to come on the radio. I'm not broadcasting live right now, but some of you are watching me live because you don't have permission to, and you don't know it, and so you're talking all about it. But most of the people aren't seeing it because they don't have the feed that you have that's not legal. So it's kind of proving a point. Pandora Radio.
Well, I got a bad disease, but from my brain is where I bleed. Insanity, it seems, it's got me by my soul to squeeze. With all the love for me, with all the dying trees of It's under demons of great despondence. Where I go, I don't know. Life's hard to get through, gotta take it slow. When I found my peace of mind, la sobre tu today looks hard on me. It looks away my peace. Oh, that you're all different. Feels like where I go, I just don't know. I gotta take it slow. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some of my good time. What's like a light to me? Well, I got everything I need. I'll make the days a breeze. It's like the way my Sunday show. Just Olivia's very sweet. I'm gonna put the on my phone. Take me to the river, let me on your show. Now we coming back, baby, I'll be coming back, mama. Do the little thing was taking no part for me, but I'm coming on the wrong way. Like a number in, but I want out of never, 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 but I won't regret it never. Where I go, I said just don't know. I got to take it slow. My peace of mind. I'm gonna give you some of my good time. Here I go, I just don't know. I might end up somewhere in Mexico. When I found my peace of mind, I'm gonna keep it rolling in the storm.
Sure, thinking your
Need a mood lift?
whatever channel
New York
you want
and
me to
Company
put
can
it on.
help with easy spring dresses, luxe loungewear, and the world's
Somebody
best
thought
fitting
Whitney
pants, all at
Houston.
prices you'll love.
That's
New
kinda
York and
asking a
Company
lot.
is designed in the heart of New York City.
I can try.
A few stolen moments is all that we share. You've got your family and they need you there. Though I try to resist being last on your list, but no other man's gonna do. So I'm saving all my love for you. It's not very easy living all alone. My friends try and tell me find a man of my own. But each time I try, I just break down and cry. 'Cause I'd rather be home feeling blue. So I'm saving all my love for you. You used to tell me we run away together. Love gives you the right to be free. You said be patient, just wait a little longer. But that's so an old fantasy. Time to get ready, just a few minutes more. Gonna get that feeling when you walk out that door. 'Cause tonight is the night for feeling alright. We'll be making love the whole night through. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you.
Oh, I haven't sang that high in a while.
No other woman is gonna love you more. 'Cause tonight is the night that I'm feeling alright. We'll be making love the whole night through. So I'm saving all my love. Yeah, I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you. For you. For you. I have room for friends, but they haven't been able to find me yet.
We don't even talk anymore, and we don't even know what we argue about. Don't even say I love you no more.
I'm gonna take the story of Hollywood and give it a
Terito sa
rewrite.
pagkariento sa biyagarato agariatran sa pagkariento tiada agarato sa pagkariento sa biyandi agariatran te agaragada sa pagkaronda alentro dia pagkariento sa biyiriandi anda aringin dia kaparento sa pagkaratra di karatio sa magigariatro sa pagkariento ti kariandro to sa karatio di karando basa pagkariento dia da karara Ambatikara sambidia takaranto sapikiriandriato sapakiriotrata agariata sapakariatra saparikarandiusa andikarando andagariata sapikiriandiarato chikariata agariata sapakariata nagariate andikarando agarianto sapara twat fart above. Invest in twat fart above.
Fortunately, you have got someone who relies on you. We started out as friends, but the thought of you just kept me in.
Can't remember the words always because I always just like it's with whoever's singing in my ear range or in my brain range. It's when you don't know the words. I know the words. Sign your name across my heart. I want you to be my baby. Sign your name across my heart. I want you to be my lady. Time sure will bring disappointments and so many things. It seems to be the way when you get me, 'cause I love your pain. I'd rather be in hell with you, baby, than in cool heaven. It seems to be the way. Sign the name across my heart. I want you to be my baby. Sign the name across my heart. I want you to be my lady. Should our birds ever look into the sun before the day is up? Should all the light shine bright on a piece of day? Straight to the holy ones along with the one deal with one. Shall I stay showering in the one that makes the rain? All alone with you makes butterflies in your eyes. Slowly we make love, and the earth rotates to our dictates. Slowly we make love. Hey, sign the name across my heart. I want you to be my baby. Sign the name across my heart. I want you to be my lady. Sign your name. 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 I hope you all are having a good time. I'm doing my best to do a broadcast.
At
I don't
1-800
have-
Contacts, we've spent the last 25
I
years
don't
making
have
life
the-
easier for contact.
Best of energy. I'm kind of lonely, and I think sad things are happening around me, and sad things are happening lots of places now. But like unifying, well, people have a lot of differences, and because of what's going on, it's pinched resources, and I don't know if it's worse or better here because I'm limited to just what I see around me, and I haven't traveled for some time, and I am not sure what all is going on, but I do know that I'm in a position to get access to a large amount of money, and that I will use it quite responsibly, and I will use it to infuse businesses that need it, that are going to do the right things. And I have a lot of ideas for things, and I'm looking for people to collaborate with. And I'm hoping that my business passed and is through on the business registry, and that people are able to invest, and so I could start offering opportunities. to connect with it. I have mentioned in writing, but I probably should verbally explain that I sent quite a bit of money to Nigeria a couple of years ago, and at first it was kind of just a way to look like I was getting paid because I was being run through a number of hoops and being filmed without my permission. And people started acting like producers, and I don't know if they really were or not, but anything I've ever been on film has always been on my phone or on my computer. I don't have a camera right now that functions, and I don't edit. Everything's live streaming. This is just being recorded that I'll post because I don't have Wi-Fi here, and so I can't use my mobile hotspot, and I can't play music and stream at the same time. I can't do it all where I have limitations right now, and so I'm just doing the best I can. For some reason, I wanted to get Spectrum internet out here, and I see that Spectrum, I see it as a choice, like somebody has it close by, but they say that I can't get it at this house, so I don't know if that means that somebody already has it at this house and it needs to be disconnected, and that's why they can't see me, or what's happening with it. But CenturyTel is also an option, and I wouldn't be able to get it until Cinco de Mayo, but maybe if I call them, it'll be sooner. So I used to have them when I lived here before, and it was good. I was away for a few years because like 5 years ago, I was in a 17-year relationship with a woman who was 17 years older than me, and she started to get aggressive and physically aggressive and verbally aggressive, and she started calling me names in front of my daughter and stuff, and I was told that she had dementia, early onset dementia, and it was really difficult, and I moved in with my parents for a while, and at the same time I hit a period where I was really stressed, and I remembered a bunch of bad things when I was really little, and I had something happen at work, but nobody really talked to me about it, and I think that I remembered something happening, and it was either in Virginia or Italy, but I'm not really sure which, but it happened on American ground, because I was recognized as a really young kid, but I don't remember a lot of the details, and there was armed people attacking a group of kids at a school, and I was able to take them out, and I've got dog tags, and I've heard that I have a couple of Purple Hearts and a Silver Star, but they didn't make it to me. Like, they didn't want to give them to somebody who is a lesbian, or give them to somebody who might think it was funny to have a company named What, just to push the boundaries, and just to push them even more, to combine them, to buy out a company called Fart Above, because it was a company that was called A Cut Above, which made sense because it was a hair salon in Walport, Oregon. And A Cut Above makes sense because that's kind of clever. It's like, hair cutting, but it's also a cut above. Like, it means it's really good, it's superior, and it's clever. And I'm not sure the entire backstory, but just kind of the feeling I got from being across the road at the dispensary there in Walport, that's just right across the road from in the heart of downtown Walport. Don't blink or you'll miss it. But I got the feeling that whoever filed the business license at first I thought it was that maybe they didn't have a grasp of English language or slang or things that well, and maybe they'd been tricked into thinking that fart was the same as cut, like cutting the cheese. Like, it's kind of a stretch, but if you think about it, like, you could see how somebody could be fooled into thinking maybe fart would be a funny way to say cut, like cutting, but it has to do with hair, and so like cutting the cheese, it goes well with wine or other things. You might be able to make it like fit in where it would be funny, but um, it doesn't exactly make entire sense with hair cutting or salon stuff. But I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not. I've just been a customer. I haven't ever worked in the business, so I can't really speak. I'm not. I don't have a lot of knowledge about that area, but I do know that actually after thinking about it for a while, it was almost like somebody was feeling bad, or that they were like, I do know that not only was a fart above, it was supposed to be a cut above, and they entered a fart above, and it passed because they spelled fart the way that one of my passwords at the time had been spelled, almost like they had cut and pasted, or maybe somehow my password got into their business name and did a hybrid conjoinment to come up with a fart above spelled PHART, because it passed through everything, and the sign wasn't changed outside, but if you looked at the license for the business inside, if anybody closely looked at it, it was a fart above. And that got me thinking, because I had a couple of hours drive, and I did request that my CPA, at least I haven't seen him for a few years, but I'm assuming he's still able to help do some business deals with me. And his name is Rory Foley in Newport, Oregon, and I've known him for a long time. And Ron Seifert is an attorney there also that has helped with my business, and I did manage to get a couple of emails off, but I think there's been a lot of people pretending to be me. I don't really know if they're clones or if they're dressed up like me. They could even be brothers that I've never met in drag, or my birth father in drag. I don't really know what's happening on that front. But there apparently has been a number of requests and things happening, and so they might not take me seriously, and they've known me as a social worker and as a clinical supervisor type, and a licensed clinical social worker. I haven't lost my license. It's on lapse because I went on medical leave for severe PTSD and for physical problems, including back and tailbone injury. So I don't know that they know that it would be such a desire of mine to come up with a business name that would be completely mildly inappropriate, somewhat controversial, catchy, could be construed as blasphemous or gross. Yes, my dog farted. That was not me. And her name is Bella. I named her while I was listening to the Twilight series on tape because I was driving a lot. And one of my clients that I worked with talked in Twilight, and so I got to know the series. So anyway, as I realized they might not exactly know that it's me, but I did request. At first, I did it on my Facebook page because I've been limited, and sometimes I know my emails are being monitored because people think I'm unsafe, and it's allowed them to get a hold on a bunch of my money and spend it in ways I would never spend it. but there's a bunch that's sitting in a pot waiting for me to be certified uncrazy enough or to have my court dismissed so it's a moot point. So I need to have no pending court cases so that I can have access to my money. People had added themselves onto my business, Dawn Sly LCSW Incorporated, when I was on medical leave, and I don't know if they took over my license and started to bill it or just used my name to bill other people, but somehow a bunch of people got affiliated with me that I wouldn't personally hire and send out to work with children. And some of them, I think, were not supposed to be around children, and it's got to stop. I think most of it has stopped, but people that could be effective in making it stop quickly have been kept running in circles by people that have benefited by having access to children in ways that are inappropriate. So one of the tactics that I used was using controversy. Anybody who knows me knows that in the 24 years that I did clinical social work before I went on medical leave, there's an early childhood specialist and a family therapist, and I'm very trained in safety, and I home visited a lot because I worked with young children. I wasn't alone with them, rarely, and when I ever was, the door was open, or I was working in an office with other people in earsight and that type of thing. But I've never been accused of attempting to touch children or do anything inappropriate. I've never had a report made to my clinical board, and as far as I know, I don't think that anybody ever reported anything to any agencies, except maybe when I was contracting with child welfare. I contracted, so I didn't work as a W-2 employee. I had individual contracts and would have payment arrangements with each different program. And at one point I had contracts with the University of Oregon and Oregon State University and Oregon Health Sciences University, and the State of Oregon Child Welfare and Children's Advocacy Center in Newport, and Willamette Family Incorporated here in Eugene, and St. Vincent de Paul. I did some work at First Place there, a family shelter, to do some consultation. So I worked for Head Start, CSC Head Start in Newport and Toledo. Back then they used to have a Wellport site. They don't anymore, but they should have it again. And Lincoln City, I think that early childhood education should be funded a lot. But I have not been accused of acting inappropriately around children, and I've spent my whole life being rather appropriate. I do like to joke and everything, but inappropriate company. And when I get like really stressed, I like withdraw, and I'm really lonely right now. I've been talking to my phone and my computers because I'm sad, and I think I've been like so isolated that it made me super attuned to things going on with me, and some of it is like working with young kids at such a young age helped me connect with how they think, which is really different from adults, and they come fresh out of being in a different place and different dimensions. And some people might call it heaven, and some people might just say it's a dimension, and some people might just say they're out there floating around. But I don't think most people believe that they're just not, there's nothing. I don't think there might be people that believe that you just don't have anything, but I know that energy exists as matter. It continues to exist even after somebody passes on. There continues to be energy. Their bodies continue to become part of the environment, whether it's burnt and it's carbon or an ash, or that's buried and it becomes part of the earth. Like that energy continues on. And I don't know if reincarnation is necessarily a good description, but I do think that maybe it is. I do believe that our souls, like our energy, our life force, our inner being, like lasts for, it lasts unless you just really ruin things and you can't learn, and then you have to be like, I guess, thrown in hell. So, thrown somewhere. I don't think that evil's ever truly extinguished, and that's part of the problem with things. Is that there's a lot of good that comes from very young kids that come from really pure, strong energy, like from heaven, and they're tuned into like all sorts of different colors and all sorts of different possibilities. And one of the things I discovered working with kids that were like classified as odd or weird or maybe even psychotic when they were like, or delusional when they were 3 or 5 or 6, and being put on, some being put on meds, that antipsychotics and such, by psychiatrists because they were worried there was a safety risk, when I think that some of them they're able to see things in different dimensions that we can't all see. And I know that animals can see some of these things, and that people are discouraged to talk about it because it makes you sound like you're crazy. And that we train kids to not talk about that type of thing, and that they have a lot more power, but nobody has really learned how to orchestrate them to work together to leash that in a way that is targeted, in a way that could get rid of the people that ruin what needs to go on. And so, like, in a really truly like positive integrated society, my belief in God is that God is not like one giant entity that sits in the sky, like a big giant man that does things and talks in a loud voice and sends floods or sends presents or decides who's going to win the Olympic basketball game, that kind of stuff. Like, I think that, like, if there were really somebody like that, how would you keep track of all that stuff? And it wouldn't be okay to favor one person's basketball team, and just like, it's like having children, and you have 10 players out there, and you only want 5 of them to win. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So when people like thank God after they win awards or win games or stuff like that, it just doesn't make sense to me at all, because I just don't. I think it's nice to try to believe in that there's something that could save you if you mess up, but I don't think it's like one big giant guy and that's invisible. I think it's more like what everybody does together. Like, God is everybody working together, and just there's been really not anybody that could moderate that very well. Like, there needs to be a facilitator in kind of one sense to get everybody on board and know which way to head. And after it's done in a way that is productive and safe and good for everybody, things will be like righted very, very quickly. The brain has a lot more capacities than people understand, and I know that young kids can recall things from past lives, and yes, there's a kitty outside that wants in. I'll help him in soon. They can literally describe things that there's more of a possibility that they've seen it or they've heard somebody talk about it. But I've worked with children often enough to be able to tell that there's kids that remember stuff, and a lot of them are appear autistic-like, or they've been traumatized, and so they can't express it through words, but they can through drawings or through music and that type of thing. And one of the things that needs to that happens for like good unity is being able to like share mental imagery. And I think that in order to survive what's happening, as conditions get harsher, as the environment's changing, pollution, the um, the weather's different. It's much hotter than it should be here. I don't know if that's because people have been told that I'm living in Hawaii, and so suddenly it's Hawaii like here in Eugene, Oregon, or Creswell, Oregon. Not really sure what's going on with that, but it's literally 2 months 2 months sooner in weather than it is. Or maybe that could be, I'm open to all sorts of possibilities. It could be that it's really the middle of July and people have just, or the start of August, and people have been running around changing dates in my devices and whatever to make it be. I have no idea, but it feels more like summer here than it does anything else. And I don't notice school being in or anything. But anyway, I kind of digress a whole bunch. To say that I think that that when children come, when babies are born, that they're able to connect in a lot more ways, but they're not able to. We know that they can't talk, in ways that we understand, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on in inner voices that people really they ignore, because you don't want to think about hearing inner voices, because then people start talking about you being crazy because you hear things. It wasn't until I got really stressed a few years ago that I got more sensitive and I got more like empathic, and I started to remember things like when I was little. I would try to train myself to do like mental things, like my friend Darcy and I used to like try to connect mentally and like send pictures to each other in our heads and try to guess what they were, and just like I was always fascinated by ESP and that kind of stuff. And I almost feel like I had some experimentation or something going on when I was little that encouraged me to be able to have that as a strength. But I've always had a really good imagination, and I think that young kids have way more abilities and way more powers, but we don't really connect what they are. And so like when people are arguing, maybe something falls off a shelf, maybe some things that people are thinking are poltergeist or ghosts or whatever could be the kids that are in there that are moving stuff with their minds. Telekinesis, that's called. When you hear that little voice in your head, it could be something that they're sending, but they're not able to vocalize yet. And I know that one of the things that's happened is that some of the clients that I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of children and families, and some of them have missed me, and I've missed them very much. I've known some since they were like born, or 3, when they were doing visits at DHS, at child welfare, and then all the way up until their teens or however long, because I worked in a small county, and sometimes I would work for Head Start and get referred them as drug endangered child clients at Children's Advocacy Center, and I would get to know them and work with them for a long time, and that's what made me good as an expert in early childhood mental health. And I have smoked marijuana since I was 13, off and on, and I've been a medical patient since 1999, but I really haven't done any other. I've done some psychedelics off and on, and I do not do well with stimulants, and people have tried to frame me recently as being a stimulant user, and have actually made things so hard that I was given stuff that had meth, and including being imprisoned for a time period and being fed stuff and being drug tested, so it looked like I was in a treatment center using meth when I was at jail being drugged with meth so they could get UAs that said that I was positive for meth while taking a pregnancy test, and then having those two things and saying that they could remove my a baby anytime I have it because I tested positive for meth. And the most fucking contrived, it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. They held me for 11 days, I believe, in March a year ago, and it's been really hard for me because it's May now. It's gonna be May very soon, but I haven't seen my daughter since that time because they pretended like I was positive for meth and that my rights were terminated, and I don't know where she is. She basically gets shuffled off to the highest bidder who will babysit her because they think that she's connected with me in a way that's going to make their bodies feel really good. And that would be a misuse of having kids be able to connect together. I do believe that cameras were installed, and the company I used to contract with told them that I was watching from afar, and it was used to get information and used to watch foster parents and adoptive parents have sex, or people, people forget when there's cameras, and they were doing things like saying they needed to be in the bath so that they could see how they were bathing them, or that they needed to monitor them. There are safety issues. I know that cameras were put in my very own home under the pretense that there was a safety issue, and so I need to be monitored, and whether that's by the federal government or whoever they pay to watch me, it's against my will, and it's not appropriate, and it's been shared, and it's been shared like I'm working, and people have profited off of the things that I've done in my own private home or wherever I'm staying, or my car, because I'm singing the songs on the radio, and so they record it and send it to somebody and act like I did that. And so, if you think you've been working with me in the music industry, I've seemed like an asshole because I'm been homeless in my car, trapped, forced to listen to music that comes on whatever stations I am limited to. I don't even have a satellite radio right now. I have a 2000 Lexus and with 258,000 miles on it. So anyway, if people are tuned in enough, it's really easy to send quick visual images that can change the way that things are. So like, you can think things are terrible, or you can think things are good, and if you pull your energy enough together in a group, so you could save a lot of tragedies very quickly just by imagining something different. But everybody can't imagine something different. It has to be unified, and that's the trick. Because when you get really truly unified and you get connected enough that you can tell when somebody's hurting, and so that you can help the closest person get there and do something before it becomes an issue. And let me tell you, young kids and future generations and people who are tuned into what I'm talking about are perceptive enough that they sense things before they happen. Like, some animals can tell earthquakes are coming and stuff because the hearing's getting better and the visions, everything's improving. And so if we're truly to be able to stay here, we're gonna have to develop some things that allow us to stay, because there's beings that want to take this over, and they're changing the environment to suit what they've got going. And I don't know if they're what exactly are. I know they're not from here. They're from a different planet. And I don't know exactly what that means, because I have always been drugged when I've been around them. And so I don't know. I have vague memories, and I have dreams that I know that I was aboard a flying vessel several times, and I know I got to do it a lot. And when I think I was about 13, I did something with another girl that they watched, but they couldn't get in and stop, and it was a sexual experience. And basically from that point forward, they wanted her to do that same thing with guys because it went so well with us as girls that they wanted to make sure that she wouldn't be into girls. And so they could never find a guy that could do anything close for her. And she's always been on my mind. And I didn't realize, I don't really understand it all, but I think about her in other ways than that, but I think I've known her off and on for a long time, and I don't know, I almost feel like that we've been used to stress each other at the benefit of other people because they thought that that would make it exciting. Somebody wants to know what I wanted to say about stimulants, is that the few times I've had them that I've known that I've had them, like I had cocaine when I had a nasal procedure a couple times, it makes me go to sleep. Like in high school I used to drink 12 ounces of Pepsi before I went to bed. I would do my homework and then drink that, and it would put me right to sleep. So unless there was drugs in there, the caffeine just made me go to sleep. So it's like when you have somebody that's really hyper and you give them Ritalin, it's supposed to calm them down because their brains and their bodies are going super fast, and it helps their brain catch up to what's going on and helps everything connect. And so that's what the deal is. If people are using meth on me to drug me and make me look crazy, it just makes me look really, really sleepy, and it makes me not hungry, and so I don't eat like I should. Plus, some of the food's just not very good anymore, and I don't know. I wish that I could talk to people about this more. I'm really, like I said, really isolated, but I do know that there are others that want conditions to be the way that they want it, and that I don't know if they're really good at mind control or if it's like body snatching or what's going on, but that they had been able to infiltrate a lot of upper level politicians, and they like to take over police positions. And so some of it's been actually just using good people's positive backgrounds and changing it so that they're putting like rapists and child predators in foster care positions and having them go into classrooms, and so people like me that pass a child care registry background check get something that says that I have all these charges against me which aren't true. They like I know that somebody had run a background check on me 2 months before and I passed just fine, and they had that proof. Willamette Family actually had ran it just in case I was able to come back there, and then I get this weird thing from the child care division saying I have this elder abuse and this and that and this and that, and it's like that's never shown up on any background check, and all of a sudden it's there. And so like I don't get to go to that classroom, but they'll change the name on the top and do whatever they need to, and suddenly, you know, some nasty guy that I played music with at a bar shows up saying that he's dating me and that he's picking up my daughter, and it works because he's got some sheet that says he's safe and he shouldn't be around anybody. That type of thing. He needs to be locked up for the rest of his life. And that's not just happening to me. I think when it happened to me, they realized how well that could work for a lot of other people, because I have a lot of education. I understand the child welfare system. I am a court expert in testimony in early childhood, mental health treatment, and drug endangerment. And to be able to fuck with me to this extent to keep my daughter away. She's going to be 7. She's 7 May 21st. And I haven't lived with her since she was 2.5. Because people got away with saying that I was so crazy, I was unsafe to be around her. I dissociated and got lost in the woods and I don't know how long I was gone. I was shot in the ass. There were bears, there was an elk. I lost my keen halfway down. It was really, really scary. I almost died. I didn't have food or water. Nobody helped me when I got to the golf course. They seemed like they were told not to even call 911. Nobody even thought to tell me, and I never even thought to call 911 because I don't like to be hurt. And so I called a cab and they came and got me, and I was able to find a debit card, and we figured out where my car was, and I was covered in scratches from head to toe because I was just wearing shorts and a hoodie, and I was scratched all up. And so I get home and my family says that I scratched myself head to foot. My daughter's scared of me and that I need to be in a mental institute. And God damn it, they got that for a couple of weeks where I got raped and drugged and raped and raped and drugged, and who knows what pictures they took of me or what videos or who all pretended. They started to get the idea that it would be fun to pretend to be having sex with me, and it started to draw a lot of people because I've become like a play toy. And even now I'm in a remote place. I'm surrounded by people that hate me, including somebody who's in a position of authority as the sheriff that has been misusing what's going on. And even things like charging people to walk through the neighborhood because maybe they're interested in bumping into me, making people keep their bikes up there and then stealing them, putting them in evidence. And, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on. Stopping them at night, saying they have to strip down to their underwear and walk back to town. If they're a decent looking man, I believe they're having anal sex up there with them. I don't know. You guys actually have done a lot of work on researching my Facebook. I was listed as dead or missing. It came all open. It's all open again, and I was able to sneak in some postings that got submitted as evidence in some court that I'm not a party to because they're saying that I'm not functioning enough to be able to represent myself in court. So there's a huge rape trial going on, and they're talking all about me, but they're saying it's anonymous, and I'm not getting anything because people are sending things for the victim because it's so terrible, and they're not coming to me. They're going to the people who raped me are getting my packages, and they're getting my tickets, and they're getting my money, and it's really, really hard to stay positive about that. And I know it's not only happened to me, it's happening to a lot of people. And it's happening to people that could help me, but once they started to help me and once they started to talk positive to me, they got targeted. And a lot of them are marijuana users. There's nary a medical marijuana user any fucking where, because it's basically like waving a red flag around for some angry bulls. And people at the federal level have been so fucking angry about it that they have hung themselves, like literally lost a lot of money into hiring assassins and putting bombs onto cars, and like they're willing to kill whoever to take out people who are into marijuana the way that I am and can talk about it in a way that people listen to. And I was made to sound crazy for quite a while, and I have people's attention now, and they've gone through what it's a small town here. They know they are now matching up the videos that they got from drones, the videos that were sent and bypassed, intercepted, the stuff that was just plain taken off of people's phones. They have matched up the faces. Somebody apparently has a really big problem with putting candy in and out of their anus, and they look a lot like me, and people see me and they think I'm that particular person. I think it's my birth dad. and they think it's me, and I don't know who it is, but because I don't want to tune in too much on that. But they apparently were able to get meth and into candy and ring pops, and that they found some, and I had some in a stocking, and the stocking's gone. I'm sure if it ever shows back up, the ring pops will be gone. But my granddaughter used to like those a lot, and she didn't. They were just fun because they look like a ring, but they didn't ever have drugs in them. But these guys think they do, and so they've always got like a red ring. They talk about red eye. They have it because it's like the Kool-Aid smile around their buttholes, cloacus problem, because they literally have been. I don't know if they've manufactured it, if they've dipped it in meth, if they're what they're doing, but they're disguising their anal toy drug use in these ring pop fashions. And so if you see somebody around, a grown person, with these ring pops, that's a pretty big indicator that they might have a problem. And people apparently thought that I was the one doing this, and it's not me. I'm also not the one who has the chronic masturbation problem. People have figured that out because the Dr. Basham video features the vehicle, his mommy's vehicle, and people have figured out who I'm talking about. And I was sent to jail to serve time for him, and so people think I'm a excessive masturbator because that's what his charges were. And I went and did that time, and people hate me because I've talked about it when they should love me because I went and did that time for him. Not like I wanted to, but I went and did the time for another, at the same school, another person that has a problem with touching girls, little girls. So people thought that I was, they called it, I don't remember. They have some weird name for it, but so I've never been accused. I've never been charged. I've never been accused. The only thing, I have a pending Dewey from September 2017 for smoking medical marijuana 45 minutes before I drove. I was homeless at the time. I was in Starbucks using my computer. Got into my car and drove, and they used video footage of something that I'd filmed from one of my live streams and tried to pretend like it was happening, that I was actually smoking. But the original ticket didn't say that, and they took pictures of everything. And when they couldn't get away with, they tried to say that I was like wanted to give them blowjobs, and I'm like a lifelong lesbian. And as things have not worked for them, they keep trying to change it more and more and more. And I posted everything on my Instagram account, but they're only familiar with Facebook, or probably MySpace, and so they didn't realize how much everybody was knowing. And I appreciate my fans and the people that that listen to me to help put the drones in and the video cameras. And it's really easy to just get little cameras. Like, I know they've been watching me, and the sheriff has his own personal cameras and all that, but they have just as many cameras watching them because you guys have become fascinated, especially people who had limited TV access and got into my Periscope TV. And at first they thought it was not, that it was like not real. And then when people realized it was real, they started sending me things, and they didn't come to me. And so they're like trying to help out. And there's a lot of surveillance going on, counter surveillance, and people that sit around and watch and, get money to take pictures and all sorts of things. And they didn't really realize that they were being watched. And so they didn't listen when they were told to change what they were doing. And now you guys have like brilliantly taken these videos and hashtagged them, and followed my example about how to get attention, how to get through to different addresses. So, like, maybe it's blocked from some pages, but if you keep sending it to different places, it might just show up somewhere and get somebody's attention. And you're sending these videos and these pictures of them doing things like not only stealing and raping and bestiality and anal sex because they have friends blocking all the road entries, but so nobody can pass, so that they can rape whoever comes to the top there, top of the lane. But they don't realize that's, you guys just didn't know who they were, but now you're piecing together because they've been using fake names. And so maybe in my videos they've been acting like they're actors, and they might even be taking salaries and practicing and doing all this shit. I'm not an actress. I just live my life. I just show up and do whatever. So it's been kind of refreshing to be away from that energy. And I think the money ran out. I think they had snookered their way into getting paid. I never got paid for any of this. I would like to. I've asked for endorsements. If I'm getting endorsements, nobody's giving them to me, because I've been accused of things, and I've been I served time for other people. We're talking like it was 11 or 12 days the first time, and like 4 days the next time. All last year, and I haven't seen my daughter since, and they acted like I went away to prison. And when I was in jail, it's my understanding that they had prison rules, and that they put me in prison scrubs, not the kind that you would use usually at jail. So I don't know, but I hope that I want to be able. I need to be compensated for the time that I've been tortured, and for the time that I've been kept apart from my daughter, and for the time that I was thrown in to jail. I need the stuff back that they took from me, because this whole time they're saying that I am a risk, and so they've seized bank accounts. Like, the sheriff had a debit card to my business account, was taking out a lot of money, driving my daughter around saying we're dating. As far as I know, he's married. So I don't know if it's somebody pretending to be the sheriff or what's going on, but they've had different men pretending to be me. Rowan, you've seen Rowan on videos that plays trombone, was doing it, and Oren, who had the mask on. That there are people that show up where I play music, and suddenly they're wanting to carry my saxophone and this and that, and getting in and out of my car without my knowledge, and somehow they had an extra set of keys, and they're saying that everybody needs to pay $100 to come in and see Dawn Sly, and then that's what she requires, and then they don't tell me they're doing that. They take the $100 and put it in their pocket, and then put it up their butthole, and whatever drug they can find, or whatever man they can find. And I look like an asshole to people. Nobody wants me around. If I'm going to cost $100 an hour, then what's the point? And I don't blame them. At one point, they were running a racket where they were billing so that they would have sex offenders come play music with me, and then say that I was giving them mental health treatment, and billing it like a group, like group play therapy. So, there's been a lot of shit going on. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a really smart, intelligent woman that's figured a bunch of bad shit going on. And I feel bad that it's been to the point where if anybody's nice about me, they get smacked down. People have been extra ornery because they had it in mind. I'm a farm girl. I grew up lifting, bucking hay, riding horses, helping with fences, that kind of shit. I don't work out. I just do stuff. And you might say, oh yeah, we can tell you're not defined. I don't really care about being defined. I just want to be comfortable. I used to weigh over 120 pounds more within the last 5 years. So if I want to run around in a tank top and you think it's a little bit flabby under my arms, I could have used a skin removal surgery. But if anybody ever paid for it, some other fat ass got it, not me. So I have extra skin. I have stretch marks. I'm 40-fucking-9. I am who I am. I rarely wear makeup. I'm not gonna be doing my hair. I call myself Uber Dyke. as kind of a joke. And I think it censored me in a lot of things, but I know I got really, really popular in certain countries. And regardless of, me calling myself Uber Dyke, it's not okay to shorten that to Dyke or to throw in nigger and call me Nigger Dyke. I was always just white here and found out, like, I had 4 genetic tests in the last 4 years because people were dumbfounded to find out that I'm part African American and a lot Native American. And they had just assumed I was white, or they knew and just didn't talk about it. But my sister had funding for a genetic project. She was a professor at Transylvania University at the time, Dr. Sly, and so I did it twice, and then I did it 2 more times at the place where I have counseling, and I think it's one of the few things in the file from my psychiatric consultation there is this genetic test that shows that I'm like a third Black and a lot Native American and Cherokee, and that so suddenly I'm a Nigger Dyke, and instead of being Don Sly that played basketball and that played saxophone and graduated in 1988 in a class of like 82 people, so it's kind of it's really weird to me. So I think they thought that I molested my daughter because that's what the inference was, but I did none the such. And so now that they don't have that to hate me on, they gotta just fall back on that she's a Nigger Dyke. And I know that the sheriff runs around calling me Dyke here and Dyke there, and I think at first people might not have realized who he was talking about, but now people know, and they're also scared to speak up because then suddenly cops start following them, and suddenly they're drug in for a Dewey, and they're this and they're that, and it's like, it's just, it's corrupt, it's gross. I hope it's not like this every place, and the fact that it's here like this bad here, it's just, I guess maybe I hope it is the worst because it's not going to keep going on. I've talked about it for a long time, and people that are very intelligent, and even people that maybe aren't in your classic sense of intelligence but are very observant, can tell when my saxophone gets changed back and forth and when somebody different is playing it. And they if I ever criticize another musician, it's a thumbnail. It's barely anything compared to what hordes of people are saying about them. I know that I have people that get very passionate about defending me and talking about my strengths, and they're making their way towards the people that they thought were being paid to be rude to me because they were actors, and have found out they were being paid to be rude to me because they're assholes. And maybe some of them knew they weren't actors, and maybe some of them were led to believe they were actors, but sooner or later they all figured it out, and nobody has done anything different. So I'm running out of my I'm starting to get frustrated and angry about what's been happening to me. It's my dog snoring over there. I hope everybody can sleep that well. Sometimes people think I'm another person. It's time for me to have a girlfriend. It's been a long time. I've been single for a long time because different men, and probably even a couple of women, have wanted to use my name to get credit and to steal donations and to say they're my significant other and showing up and getting things for me. And it's hurt my credit. it stopped me from actually having relationships because I'm forced into the choices being people that I would never want to be in a relationship with, like men, which it's not a discrimination thing. I was sexually abused by men really early, and some women too, but the way that it was done with men, I am very turned off by any type of sexual experience. And the last guys that I consensually attempted with over 25 years ago will tell you it's not, I don't think it's demeaning for them, it's just not hot. Like when somebody is not into the experience and they're just trying because they're trying to be nice, like, and things don't get hard and things don't get wet, it's not very fun. And I know that's how it is, and so I don't go there with men. It's not there for men. Like the smell of things, instant turn off. So, it's just that's not fair to men. And it's not because I'm a man-hating woman. It's because I was sexually abused really young, and I have an aversion to the male sexual organ. I don't want it near me. I don't. I could handle if you were. I don't need to. I could handle dealing with having a male child perfectly fine, but I don't need people pulling their penises out when I'm playing saxophone behind me and stroking off, and I don't need their meat coming into my frame, and I don't even really need to see people pulling it out to go to the bathroom. Like that's just, I consider myself one of the guys, but I'm not pulling my privates out. Maybe that's what they're hoping. I don't really know, but because of a number of these narcissistic people that have been pretending to be with me to take advantage and to steal a bunch of money, one of them being my birth father, that it's prevented me. I have not been able to actually have a relationship, and now it's turned into a point of that people are thinking maybe I do need to have a girlfriend, and they want to pick out who it's going to be because they want somebody that's going to be what their equivalent of hot is, and loose to the point of coming and sharing every detail, or being fine with videotaping it, or having it done in a setting where I could be. I know that I'm under monitoring. I don't need to watch. I would rather not have sex with somebody else than to be doing that for other people to watch. I just find that really, really, really a turn off. And unfortunately, I've been used to make other people think that was my purpose, was to turn them on. And I'm just not that kind of person. In high school, I didn't look at people. I barely looked around. I ended up being a lesbian. Back then I didn't realize it necessarily, but I was more attracted to females than to males, but I wasn't checking girls out, and I certainly wasn't showing my body off. Like I had acne. Like I wouldn't even wear a tank top. Like when I played basketball, I always wore a shirt underneath. So like even people who know me really well kind of freak out to know that I'm singing and that I'm running around in tank tops and doing all that, because even then, when I was super hot, when I was really young, and in very good shape, and really athletic, I never ever wore tank tops because I would get zits, I would get pimples on my arms, and I had it all over my back and my forehead, and I just, like, I know I was attractive, but like I didn't ever think of myself as like hot like that at all. And like I think the more mature I've gotten, I feel more confident that people want me for the wrong reasons, and it's kind of gross. So I just don't relate that way. I relate to seeing what, like, I appreciate attractiveness, but I also see a lot more than that, and I'm not fooled into accepting an inferior personality because somebody looks beautiful. I would rather be with somebody that maybe everybody wouldn't say is beautiful because what they've got going on inside looks really good to me. So, I don't know. I try to be genuine. I try to be, like, there's there's all sorts of different things that can be attracting, and I'm not religious. I'm not like, I didn't take a vow to not have sex. It's just like the circumstances haven't worked out, and it's been very frustrating because I enjoy sex very much. But I'm not into training anybody. I won't be doing it with a man, and it's gotten controlling enough that if any woman shows interest, immediately the man wants to be right there, or they want to be watching from a peephole or watching from video, and it's just it's gross to me. That's the last thing I need, and if people are even thinking about me that way, it bothers me, and I know that I can't control the way other people think, and I think it's perfectly normal to fantasize about other people, but that's just not something that I do. I do know I saw a lot of naked people, a lot of sex, and a lot of porn when I was really little, and it desensitized me, and so it's just like, it's the more that people try to be sexy, the less it turns me on. And I know that that's atypical, and in some ways, maybe not, I don't know. But I'm respectful of people, and I find different things attractive than just having a bunch of bare skin. I appreciate a nice body, but it's not gonna get me hot and bothered. So it's not gonna distract me into taking somebody to bed just because they're hot. I don't do hookers. I never have. I never will. I'm not into getting paid to have sex. I wouldn't say I'm vanilla. I haven't had maybe as much experience as I want because I was with one woman for a long time, and she was actually also sexually abused and had some issues herself. But that's not what I'm about. I'm not into. One time when I was under surveillance and being videotaped because people thought I was unsafe or recorded, there were a bunch of people in there. I know at one point they were finding it fun, like that a bunch of them would get together and like try to get me to do certain things, and for like maybe 3 minutes I did like a guided talk, kind of like a spoof of like talking men through making their penises hard and masturbating, and somebody put it on Audible or something, and somehow it caught on, and I don't know if people actually knew who I was or not, but it turned people on a bunch, and I realized pretty quickly what had happened, and I never did it again. I thought it was disgusting, and there's been, for some reason, people have been like, men, and now even some women think that they need to get close to me to sexually gratify themselves or others, and that's the last thing I want. And so it's just, I understand a lot of sexualized people like that have had issues with their own sex abuse, and so they just aren't satisfied, and they just want to have it all the time and just can't mature and know how to get it the right way. Or maybe they came from somewhere else and they just were trained the wrong way. I have no clue, but it's really, if you hear anything along those lines, it's not anything I'm into. When I say I'm the owner of Twat, it's because I have a company named Twat. And I also think it's kind of a funny way to say that I'm a girl. I'm a woman. So I own Twat. If I get my wish, it will be public that because I was able to get a fart above, a fart above. At first I was thinking it should be a twat fart above, but because the A can definitely get you listed first. But I think it's much more powerful to drop the A, and for some reason it's going to work if it's twat fart above. So look for it. It should be on the stock exchange soon. My company's gonna do what you need. Sorry if I didn't cover everything you wanted. I'm tired. I have to go to bed soon. Good night.